Hey guys, welcome back to my channel, The Fallen Pages. Today's book is The Last Days of New Paris by China Miéville. Imagine for just a moment that art refuses to remain obedient. Imagine that a painting decides it no longer wishes to hang quietly inside a museum, admired from a respectful distance by visitors wearing polished shoes and empty expressions. Imagine a poem tearing itself free from the page, a sculpture inhaling for the first time, a metaphor developing claws. That is not merely the premises of The Last Days of New Paris, it is the question the novel forces upon us. What happens when imagination becomes stronger than reality? What happens when the subconscious ceases to be private and begins occupying streets, buildings, and battlefields? China Miéville does not begin with fantasy. He begins with history, specifically one of the darkest chapters in European civilization. Nazi-occupied Paris, a city that in our own history became a symbol of defeat, resistance, collaboration, and survival all at once. But Miéville performs an act worthy of the surrealists themselves. He tears history open and stuffs a dream inside it until history can no longer recognize its own reflection. The result is not to alternate history in the ordinary sense. It is history infected by imagination. The novel revolves around an event known as the S-Blast, an impossible detonation triggered by the experiments with surrealists' techniques. Rather than destroying buildings alone, it fractures the boundary between imagination and matter. The unconscious erupts into the physical world. Paintings walk, symbols hunt, dreams develop teeth. Artistic manifestations known as manifs stalk the streets alongside soldiers. This is perhaps Miéville's first great philosophical claim. Every civilization believes that reality is stable until an idea proves otherwise. Empires do not collapse because walls crumble. They collapse because someone imagines another way of arranging the world. That is why dictators fear artists. Hitler burned paintings before he burned cities. A dictatorship requires certainty. Surrealism worships ambiguity. One demands obedience and the other invites dreams. In that conflict lies the beating heart of this novel. Miéville does something extraordinary here. The resistance is not simply fighting German soldiers. They are fighting certainty itself. Every manif, the manifestations, represents rebellion against a universe that insists everything must have one fixed meaning. This immediately invokes the psychological theories of Carl Jung. Jung argued that beneath conscious awareness lies the collective unconsciousness, populated by archetypes that humanity has carried for thousands and thousands of years. These archetypes do not disappear simply because modern civilization invents electricity or automobiles. They merely change costumes. Miéville imagines that what would happen if Jung's collective unconscious escaped the psyche? Not metaphorically, but literally. Every archetype begins walking through Paris. Suddenly nightmares become military assets. Beauty becomes dangerous. Love becomes carnivorous. Memory acquires mass. The city itself transforms into a gigantic unconscious mind. Paris ceases to be a geography, it becomes a psychology. This is why the setting matters so profoundly. Paris was the birthplace of so many revolutionary movements, political revolutions, artistic revolutions, philosophical revolutions. It was where surrealism itself emerged under figures like André Breton, who believed art should not imitate reality but liberated the unconsciousness from rational imprisonment. Breton sought automatic writing. Miéville asks, what if automatic writing started writing us? Every street becomes a sentence, every building becomes a punctuation, every building becomes a punctuation of itself, every explosion becomes grammar, every reality becomes literature. That idea resonates uncannily with Islamic metaphysics. The Quran repeatedly reminds humanity that the visible world is filled with ayat, signs. Creation is never merely physical. Everything points beyond itself. Mountains, stars, rivers, even history possesses symbolic dimensions. Reality is layered. What appears ordinary conceals deeper truths. Miéville Paris operates similarly. Nothing is merely what it appears to be. Every creature symbolizes something beyond flesh. Every impossible event points toward another level of existence. Yet there is an essential difference. In Islamic thought, signs ultimately direct humanity toward a divine order. In Miéville's universe, signs often lead deeper into uncertainty. Order has fractured itself. Meaning itself has become unstable. This tension recalls the warning of Nietzsche. When you gaze long into an abyss, the abyss also gazes back into you. The abyss in the last days of New Paris is imagination itself. Not evil, just imagination, because imagination possesses no inherent morality. It creates angels, it also creates monsters. The same faculty that produces cathedrals produces concentration camps. The same human mind capable of composing symphonies invents gas chambers. Miéville refuses comforting optimism. Certainty alone does not save humanity. Its direction matters. Here the novel quietly dismantles simplistic understandings of the art. Many people imagine artists as harmless dreamers. History disagrees. Art creates civilizations. Propaganda is art. National anthems are art. Religious architecture is art. Political posters are art. Every empire first conquers imagination before conquering territory. Hitler understood this. And Stalin also understood this. Both invested enormous energy controlling symbols because symbols eventually control people. Ivan Pavlov demonstrated that repeated associations reshape behavior. And totalitarian governments merely expanded Pavlov's laboratory until entire populations became conditioned responses. Flags, marches, uniforms, songs, salutes. Repeated enough times, symbols cease communicating. They command. Surrealism attempts the opposite. Instead of conditioning the mind, it attempts to liberate it. Miéville stages that conflict physically. The Nazis represent rigid symbolic control. The manifs, the manifestations, represent uncontrolled symbolic eruption. Between them stand ordinary human beings trying desperately to survive while reality itself mutates around them. One of those figures is Thibaut, a member of the resistance who navigates this impossible landscape. He is not presented as an untouchable hero. He is exhausted, uncertain, and perpetually confronted by the phenomena that exceeds language. His journey becomes less about defeating an enemy than about enduring a world where every certainty has dissolved. Through him, the reader experiences the strange coexistence of courage and bewilderment. Resistance is no longer merely military, it is existential. This psychological atmosphere recalls Dostoevsky's more than conventional fantasy. Dostoevsky's greatest characters are rarely destroyed by external enemies. They are overwhelmed by competing truths inside themselves. Miéville adopts the same principle. His battlefield is consciousness. His explosions occur inside meaning. His monsters are ideas wearing flesh. Even Edgar Allan Poe lingers like a ghost over these pages, his ideas. Poe understood architecture as psychology, and a house could become guilt. A raven could become grief. A heartbeat beneath wooden floorboards could become conscience refusing burial. Miéville extends that tradition across an entire city. Paris itself becomes a haunted mind. Every monument concealed subconscious memory. Every ruined city becomes a corridor leading deeper into humanity's interior labyrinth. And perhaps that is the novel's first unsettling revelation. The Nazis are terrifying. The monsters are terrifying. But the most frightening discovery is that neither came from another planet. Both came from us. One emerged from ideology, the other from imagination. Both were born inside the same astonishing contradictory species that write poetry with one hand and history's darkest chapters with the other. That is where the last days of New Paris truly begins. Not with magic, not with war, but with the unbearable realization that reality is far thinner than we pretend, and that beneath every civilized street waits a dream, patient as an ember beneath ash, ready for the slightest breath to become fire. So I guess this is it, guys. That is basically the crux of the book, and I hope you guys like the video. And if you read the book, please leave your comments and do let me know what you think about the book and about this video. And I guess see you in the next video.